What's going on, beautiful people? Welcome back to the Value TV show, where we give you tools to build and have healthy relationships. That's right, tools to build and have healthy relationships. I am Jamel Jackson, your relationship mechanic, and
I am honored to be here. I am Lashunna, the co-host of the Value TV show and creator of Girl Let It Out, a community for ambitious Black women to just grow, heal, and thrive.
How is that going?
It's going good. I just wrapped up a 6-week series called Couch Sessions, really focusing on breaking the stigma of silence amongst Black women to just come together, tell our stories, talk about our challenges, our wins, all of those good things.
I like that, man.
Yeah.
Are you seeing breakthroughs?
Yes, seeing crazy breakthroughs that, you know, I know what I possess, but sometimes you always wonder how much impact or influence am I making, especially when your platform isn't at the place of being this huge, large platform, but the level of impact that women are having, just to simply know that they're not alone has been amazing.
Wow. Man, I'm there you go, man.
Yeah.
Proud of you, man.
You got relationships, I got the women, we just saving the world.
I think that's dope, man. So listen, man, make sure y'all check all of that out before, you know what I mean? Holla at. We doing powerful things in these streets.
Yeah.
What was I gonna say? Do I have anything new cooking?
I'm pretty sure you do.
I don't know if I don't know if I should release it now or wait until I drop a flyer, or should I say
No,
well,
give
this
a
episode
little bit of a sneak peek.
Well, yeah, we got a hot couple summer thing going down. You know what
we
I mean?
love the hot couples. The couples is
couple
out in
summer.
these streets this
Yo,
summer.
these couples is powerful. I brought on here too. They
Yeah.
are some world changers. I don't even want to say influencers, although they are influencers. But there's some world changers. I got people like my man CEO Matty J, my man Brandon Shot Me, him and his wife, Xavier. Who was the other couple, man? I got the hot Hassani Pettiford and his wife from a Couples Academy.
Yeah.
I got my man Quest Green. You know Quest. I got Quest Green, him and his wife coming through. It's a lot of them, man. But it's hot couple summer, and the theme is meeting again. So these couples, you know, they're coming on the show, and we're going back, and just it's like they're meeting again, and we're having that type of conversation, you know?
Yeah, I love it. You gotta give the people something to look forward to.
Yeah. And all the other little things, y'all. I'm gonna wait till some of it manifests before I tell you. I don't want to be ahead of myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, so here's the thing. When I'm in the marketplace, in the mall where I'm doing business, and I'm asking people if they're in relationships, if they're dating, and then somebody may say, well, we're not together anymore, whether it's the guy or the girl. And then I always ask, well, what happened? You know, I'll just be curious, gathering information. And most of the time I hear, he didn't know how to communicate. Or vice versa.
Sounds a
the
little
guy's
valid.
like, she didn't know how to communicate. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, wow. But I hear it enough. I would say almost like, let me not do a large percentage. I would probably say about 65% of the time, or 70% of the time, that's the answer that I get. She didn't know how to communicate. He didn't know how to communicate. What's your take on that?
I think it's very valid. I think communication is the foundation, and many times sometimes it's not even that people don't know how to communicate. It's just that we all communicate differently. And so there starts to be a lot of miscommunication, but I think I hear a lot of the same things when it comes to relationships. Even with people that are still together but having difficulties, that it's usually the communication.
Communication is key.
It's definitely
And this is in all relationships, but especially intimate relationships. I gave this example one time on Instagram where I had 2 hotel keys. And one of the keys you had to put in the door. And then the other key, it was one hotel key, and it was my regular key, like my car key type key. And I gave the example of those 2 keys being examples of communication. So only one of the keys can get me into the hotel door. The other key can't. But what we find ourselves doing is we'll try to use a different style key to get into a particular door. And so we never have access to what's behind that door because we're not using the right keys.
Right.
So the right form of communication with your partner can get you access into areas of their mind and in their heart that you normally wouldn't have access to if you're using the right key. Have you found yourself in that position in a relationship where you're like, you know what, this isn't...
Well, I'll say this, going back to what you said about, especially in romantic relationships,
Okay.
what I found is that being able to operate in relationships outside of romantic ones have helped me inside of romantic ones. So there's always different levels to relationships. Like romantic relationships unlock something in you that platonic relationships cannot.
Right.
But having really strong platonic relationships have helped me to thrive in romantic relationships. And that's because I have strictly platonic friends that are men and women. So I think sometimes people put so much focus on being great in a romantic relationship and they're not great in other relationships. And something like communication is a foundation to any relationship. So the better you are at having good communication in your platonic relationships, it will help in your romantic relationship.
See, I had to learn how to become a better communicator. Even in outside of my intimate relationship, I had to learn because once again, I'm sharing the environment that I grew up in. It wasn't built on a lot of communication.
Same.
You know, especially when the environment was like, you know, a little rough, you know, so some people, you were taught, don't be expressing yourself like that. You know, so it's kind of like, if anybody asks you, well, you're okay, your communication was automatically, I'm okay.
I got you.
You want to hold it? Hold on. Oh, that's good, that's good. Hey, mommy, go lose my room. Are you ready? So growing up in a certain type of environment, it wasn't always this type of expressive environment. It was more so you just wearing, your heart's not on your sleeve. You know, you just walking through, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good. And so sometimes getting into intimate relationship, I had to relearn how to talk and learn communication. You know, I was expressive, but not always about every emotion or everything that was going on in my mind or my heart at that time, you know? So I had to learn it.
Yeah,
And for some people, that's what you have to do, but you have to be willing.
I agree.
Because some people, their kickstand or their scapegoat becomes, that's just how I am. That's just how I talk. That's just how I communicate.
Yeah.
No. I had to break that cycle up off my life. Like, no, this is not just how you communicate. There's a world out here and people communicate in business, in family, in intimate relationships, especially in intimate relationships. You can't just be using, that's just how I talk. You don't like it, then go ahead.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Listen. Oh, were you about to say something?
So mine is different. I actually get, especially in romantic relationships, I get that. They feel like I'm overly communicative. Like,
how could you overly communicate?
I think that people, like a lot of people say like they want open, honest, transparent communication, but they're really not ready for it. Because it's like cool until you start getting into like vulnerability. And I've experienced many men who are like, I'm not used to that. I'm not even really used to a woman listening to understand and not respond. I'm not used to someone telling me exactly what they mean or they feel without having to assume or add a narrative to it. And so what I've learned is that sometimes it's very difficult if you are a healthy communicator, not a perfect communicator, but a healthy communicator. When you choose someone who is not a healthy communicator, it can be very difficult.
You said the man loves it because you're listening. He's listening. Oh no, you're listening to him.
Yeah, like a lot of men have never even like, if a man says like, okay, I'm good, but you're so in tune and you're paying attention to know that he's not good. And you start to say things like, I understand that you probably good in terms of, because most of the time when we say we good, it's not that we good in the moment, but we know we're going to be good.
Yeah.
When you've been built on survival, you know that whatever hits my life, like I'm going to be good. So it doesn't necessarily mean I'm good in this moment. It just means that at the end of the day, I'm going to play the hand I was dealt and I'm going to be good.
Yeah.
But sometimes it takes that, like, hey, I know you probably good, but what can I do in this moment to support you? You know, instead of like getting upset, like he just won't open up to me. It's like, I know you say you good, but I noticed you've been kind of down lately. I noticed that you've been a little irritated lately. Like, what's making you feel irritated? Like you start to ask those clarifying questions, have a discovery conversation. To even, because sometimes people really feel like they good. Because I think when people are not good and they say, no, I'm good, sometimes you really feel like you good until you really sit with yourself and be like, yo, I'm not good. You know, and I think for me, it's been very difficult thriving with a man who has very healthy communication.
Something I wrote down on here is this word, and I know we're familiar with it, and some people watching or listening, is active listening. Listening, like active listening. So you have people that do selective listening or selective hearing, however you want to style it. And there's active listening or active hearing, where you're actively, literally listening to every word that's coming out of my mouth. Some people do selective hearing or listening in this form of communication where you're only picking pieces out to listen to. And so therefore there's this breakdown of communication. When I go to repeat something to you, like, so what do you think about what I said? You're like, huh? Oh, were you listening to me?
Right.
You know? And some couples have a challenge with that because some couples, the person is just being selective and hearing what they want to hear.
Yeah, I've done that before.
I'm bringing tools down the line now. So what's some tools for people to have healthy communication? One of the tools I wrote down is daily dialogue. So having a daily dialogue, being intentional about talking about your relationship daily. And it doesn't have to be like a real in-depth conversation, but it could be something as simple as, hey, how was your day today? And not just, my day was fine, and end it right there. No, open the dialogue up and get an in-depth conversation. Oh, so what happened at work, or what happened when you went out to the grocery, whatever that conversation may look like, but having a daily dialogue about your relationship, not other relationships.
I like that you say that, because I do think that we tie communication to only conflict a lot of times. Like, we should communicate all the time. Sometimes it's not just like what I don't like. Sometimes it's communicating how you truly feel about a person. Sometimes you can love a person deeply, you can appreciate them deeply, but you never tell them. And so they never know. Communicate those things, as well as when it's like, well, I didn't like when you said this. Communicate when they did something that you really appreciated or you really like. Because most of the time when you think about, when people say, going back to people in relationships saying this person just doesn't know how to communicate, they're probably isolating it to when they had conflict.
Hold on, let me flip this over.
So I like that. Communicate daily. Get to know each other. Like, what did you do today? Tell me about work, or tell me the person you saw today that you had a really good conversation with. Like, yeah, I think that's super important.
And then I believe the daily compliments. These are things that build healthy communication. Daily dialogue, talking about your relationship, and then daily compliments. You know, somewhere periodically throughout the day. And maybe you might miss a day. That's okay. But I'm just giving some tools to have healthy relationships. And here's 3. I want to point these out that increase the intimacy in your communication.
Okay.
Give full attention to your partner when they're talking.
That's a good one.
For somebody that's listening or watching, give full attention to your partner when they're talking. That means, an example, like the phone's off, the computer's shut down. You know, there's nothing distracting you, especially if it's an intimate conversation they're trying to have with you. Give full attention. It increases the intimacy of the communication.
So no scrolling.
No scrolling.
No texting.
No
answering the email real quick, because it's so important.
The phones and the computer is off to the side. And you're having an intimate conversation about your relationship. Number 2, avoid blaming each other when you're communicating.
Okay.
And work on a solution together.
Okay.
So a lot of times when couples are talking, somebody's like, well, if you would have took out the trash, then this wouldn't have been like this. That's blaming. Let's come up with a solution and avoid blaming each other for whatever that problem is when we're communicating, instead of blaming each other during the process.
So I have a question about that.
Okay.
Right?
I knew you had a question.
Where is the healthy balance with that when it comes to blaming versus holding someone accountable? So how do I communicate that I'm not blaming you, but you need to be held accountable for this?
Okay. So here's an example, right? Where you can compliment them at the same time. Here's an example. So Listen.
Okay, I'm listening. I got some more questions.
No, this is not Jamel. I have questions.
Just a little segment dropped in between.
Okay, here's an example, right? Babe, I thank you so much for taking out the trash yesterday and and taking out the trash yesterday. It really meant a lot for me. It's not, you're not blaming them, but here's a healthy way of complimenting what they didn't do. Babe, I thank you for taking out the trash yesterday. Do you believe when you take it out next time that you can roll it back to the house?
That's a good one.
You see what I'm saying?
I like that, yeah.
So now you're asking them to do, but you're not saying, thank you for taking out the trash yesterday. Why you didn't put it back to the house?
I think that's like the style and the tone. I just think for me, this is like me, like I can be a very direct person. Like this is something I have to work on so much. Like I can be a direct person and like I agree with that method. I love that. But sometimes I take issue with like, no, I'm going to hold you accountable. I give you compliments and things like that. But in this moment, listen, what you did was not correct. And I need you to take accountability for it. And I'm not giving you a compliment with it. Because you need to be, because I think sometimes it takes the impact and the influence on how you made me feel away because you're like, because a lot of times people will hit you with the, well, what are you complaining about me rolling it back for? You just said you appreciate me taking it out. At least I take it out.
Understandable. But here's the thing. The third option is for a person in your position or anybody else is set up a meeting with the relationship mechanic. So we can get down.
Because we're going to need a mediator.
You're going to need a mediator at that point. You know what I'm saying? So listen, guys, if you're single, dating, or married, and you're looking for tools to build and have a healthy relationship, I need you guys to tune into the relationship. Oh, what am I talking about? So listen, guys, if you're single, dating, or married, and you're looking for tools to build and have a healthy relationship, tune into the Value TV show. I'm Jamel Jackson, your relationship mechanic, and
I am the co-host, Lashunna Stokes.
You're getting it. There we go.